Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Play On. My name is Candice Barrett.
I'm Rob Mackay.
And this is Piercy. And I'm Big Kev again. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm so excited.
Candice has rustled up one of the good guests. Rob, with no further ado, how about you introduce our special guest?
Take it away.
I'm on. So while rugby south of the equator may be easing off as summer beckons, there is no rest for the wicked in the north. No sooner has the Rugby World Cup been run and won, the northern domestic seasons ramp right up, along with all the northern tours. And today, our guest comes from those climes. This year sees her celebrate her 21st, an august occasion by any measure, but even more so when it's the 21st season of refereeing. During that journey, she's managed to officiate the world's longest game of rugby. She's refereed at Allianz Stadium, which these days could be anywhere in the world, spent time at the Dubai Sevens, and like most in rugby, has thoroughly investigated the impact of acute alcohol intake on liver function. Unlike most in rugby, she used the livers of others and was paid to do so. Speaking of which, she has spoken out strongly against toxic behaviour towards match officials at the elite level, how it impacts community, and at the recent World Cup was honoured as one of the 25 female pioneers of English rugby. No mean feat. She's another rugby trailblazer, becoming the London Society of Referees' first female regional manager in 2019 and has since progressed to deputy president and will be the Society's first female president in 2027. She has a penchant for a humble veggie-growing brag but will succumb to orders from a feline. She's a legend of the game in the UK. So please welcome to the Play On Pod, the one, the only, Hannah Everitt.
Welcome, Hannah. And
thank you very much.
We love to ask how much of that wasn't true.
I think I pretty much nailed it. Yeah. I'm
Well
trying to think
Rob.
where I would have spoken out
Rob.
or where publicly I've spoken out about match fishing abuse, but I do it all the time and it really grinds my gears. So yeah, I think spot on, Rob. Well done.
Well done, Rob. I'm really happy to have you on, Hannah, because when I first joined and did a take up a whistle course in London, I had to figure out where, because I live in West London, which society I'm going to join. And
Candice,
you were
just
the
to
regional
correct you on
manager.
that there, you said you lived.
Sorry. I used to live in London. Lived
You're
in
an Aussie
London.
now. Remember we spoke last week about you go for the Wallabies now.
Oh, right.
And the Wallaroos.
No. She can finally say USA, Ilona Mayer, all that stuff. She can be so proud of everything that's going on in North American rugby right now.
Yeah, it's really
Don't forget your
exciting.
roots.
Go Canada. With that, I think I was so happy to actually, when I first started out, to actually see a female as the regional manager. And then you notice as well other females within the Westless Society was quite high. I think, since then, I think I've always had fond memories of the Westless Society and like what you've done for it as well. But yeah, I'm so happy to have you on.
Thank
Hey,
you.
I don't know much more than what Rob just told us about your story and some really, really last minute Facebook stalking. Tell us a little bit about your rugby background and how you got into rugby and then rugby refereeing.
So, I mean, it starts off when I'm tiny, I think like most people. My dad used to go and watch his mate play at the local club, which was Nuneaton in the Midlands in England. My mum said, well, that's fine, you can go, but take Hannah with you. So I would go down on sidelines and, grab a bag of crisps and a bottle of fizz, and which at that point was pop, not champagne, as it is now, and just to watch the rugby and just ask my dad what was going on and just be a part of it. And then as I got older, I wanted to go and watch better rugby. So I sort of badged my dad into getting us season tickets for Leicester. That was the nearest big club at the time. There wasn't really a playing culture in the 1980s for girls to play rugby. Or if there was, it wasn't something that I thought to investigate. And then I went to a school where the boys did rugby and the girls did netball and hockey, and that was that. So I didn't actually pick up a rugby ball until I went to uni, and I went and I joined my university's team. We were fun and we were great at the boat race. We won a few games on the field, but it was very much, we were a social team and I just loved it. But I really...
Did you win the boat races?
Did you win the boat races?
Most of them. Sometimes you come across the medical schools were especially good at them. So not only they were good at playing, because medics were there for 5 years.
That doesn't surprise me.
No.
Medical and engineering. Engineering were always a challenge.
True.
They were always hard.
Imperial were always quite good as well. The big science college in London, they were always pretty good at it as well.
Yeah.
But I always put a strong show in the boat race, more so than I ever did on the pitch. When I finished and finished uni and kind of stepped away from that environment, I had to think about where I was going in life, what I wanted to do. And none of those things were fixed at that point. The only thing I knew when I graduated was that I was going to Australia this was 2003. I was going to Australia to watch a few of the World Cup games. So I was very lucky to sort of do that as a post-university break. And when I was out there, I was on a trip and I met a woman who was a referee. And I thought, oh, hey, that sounds interesting. That way I can stay in the game and it doesn't really matter where I end up going for work or carry on study. I can maybe just, slot that in. And that's exactly what I did. I got back from Australia. I rang up my local referee society and said, I want to do the course. And so they sent me off to do the course, which was wildly different to what it is now. It really was. I think it was one day was just, here's a law book, and they had some open book questions. And then day 2, they had 20 questions that you weren't allowed to look at the book for, and you had to get 20 out of 20.
Oh, wow.
I know. And they were they were scenario based. They made you think, but I didn't get 20. I think I got sort of 16 or 17, really trying to think back. And they said when it was first brought in, it was given to the top flight referees of the day, and none of them got 20 either. So there was a little bit of sort of rejigging. Yeah, exactly. We never stood a chance. So then we had to go back and look at what law said and have a discussion. And that was it. It was 2 classroom days. And they said, off you go and referee a game. So off I did. I went and trundled to a third versus fourth team game in the Midlands. I think 2 old coal mining villages that hated. It was a bit of a punch up. It was good fun. And I got through it and I enjoyed it and I carried on. And to the point that I made earlier that I didn't know where I was going to go or what I was going to do. I had that 1 year very much in my hometown. And then I moved to London to study alcohol and the effects of others, which, just to clarify, was rats, not getting other people drunk. Went to London for my PhD and joined Hertfordshire Society. My society at that time had an alliance with Hertfordshire. They said, they'll look after you and they'll, treat you right, which mostly true. And then after university, my postdoc took me to Florida. So again, settled in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. Not very many people would do that one. So very different culture, very different setup. But within 3 weeks of landing there with my student visa, I was on a rugby pitch. I made really good friends with, the referees in Florida. Was very lucky to be situated in Tampa, which had 2 referees who were roughly my age.
Nice.
And also a visiting, I think he was New Zealand Air Force. Yes, he was New Zealand Air Force. He was a coach. So there was a little cohort of us straight away in Florida that made that rugby family right away, which is great. And then that went tits up after about a year and a half.
I love that. So different people from around the globe just all gathered together in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. And,
Crazy.
I still count these people as some of my closest friends. I miss them a lot. Really would love a day when we could all be back in the same room, but I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon.
I'm interested in who the ref in 03 was that you bumped into.
Yeah, me too.
She was from San Francisco. A couple of American tourists. She was San Francisco. I can't remember her name.
How serendipitous.
I guarantee you I was in a couple of the same crowds that you were in back in 03.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. So your rugby experience actually, well, your refereeing experience starts in Australia.
Yeah, essentially.
So
yeah.
We've sort of come full circle.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Is this the end of my refereeing career?
I love that. That's a wonderful
You never
little
get
circle
out,
of life.
Annie, you know this. It's like the mafia. You just can't get out.
Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave.
That's the second time I've heard
This is
someone
true.
say that today, Rob. That's a bit scary.
Oh dear. Oh
Ooh.
dear. Ooh. All right. So you're back refereeing in Florida with a polyglot of United Nations rugby
Pretty much, yeah.
hardheads.
Yep. Getting very good coaching, really good rugby standard. Being such a minor sport, they took it very seriously. And almost all of the university or colleges, should I say, had both a men's and a women's team. So, there was some pretty decent rugby going on there.
Were you still running around on field as a player as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably the thing. I probably came back from Florida the best and fittest referee I've ever been, because I had to run around in 35-degree heat and 25-degree humidity and, all the rest of it for hours at a time. And there's no kind of escaping it. You can't say, well, this is too much. You just got to get on with it. So it was a bit of a baptism of fire when I first got there, but, I settled into it and really, really enjoyed it. Things didn't work out as planned with the postdoc. So came back to the UK with my tail between my legs and immediately went back into refereeing, moved back home, went back to my original society, had a few games with them, moved jobs, took me to London. And at that point, this is going to be my 5th society. I'd been refereeing around about 10 years at that point. I'd done okay for myself, but I definitely had experienced moments of, I'm not being treated fairly here. I'm definitely being seen as, female. We're not quite sure. We need to check your credentials. We need to sort of make sure that you're as good as you say you are. Whereas 6-year-old guys would come in and they'd be like, oh yeah, fine, off you go. You're a level 6 or a level 8, off you go. I don't want to dwell too much on it. I think it'd be very unfair to say that was happening every single time. But it was definitely a thing. And so I was already starting to think, I want to do something where I can help this. I knew at that point, I'm never going to reach the top level. I've never been a particularly quick runner. I had other things going on in life. At this point, I was in my 30s and, sort of just because of how the system works, if you're really going to get to the very top and go through those channels, you need to be a bit younger. So what can I do to help other people reach where they can be without those hurdles? And so I'd already started to think about that. And when I joined London, it was towards the end of the season. I went off to a tournament and I got chatting to a few people. And one of them was the appointments manager. And at that point, it was a woman named Joan. So London already had a kind of a legacy of having female referees in management roles, people quite visible, doing important jobs. And I'd known Joan through the circuit anyway. She said, hey, how do you fancy becoming a reappointments manager or part of the reappointments team? And I went, oh, actually, yeah, why not? Let's just go in. Let's really dive into London and be a part of it. So I went off to the end of season dinner a few weeks later, and Joe said, so I've got an announcement to make. Hannah's going to be joining the reappointments team next season. And half the rooms, most rooms went, who the hell is that? What's going on? And they found out quite quickly. And so I did a few seasons reappointing the West List, which for those that don't know what that entails, the fixtures for my region, London, come out on a Sunday. They're a week ahead because it's a very shifting landscape, and anything longer than that is likely to just end up causing problems. So they come out on a Sunday morning. You accept or you decline. If you decline, you have to explain yourself to Rob Park, and that's always an interesting conversation.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
I
yes.
still have memories of that.
Candice is having PTSD.
He's a Welsh man, and you don't really want to melt.
Don't you dare call him Welsh. He is Yorkshire. He is from north of England. He is a proud man from Harrogate.
Candice, you just
He is
affected
my
Welsh.
all
Not
the
Welsh.
Yorkshiremen and all the Welshmen.
Candice, you've just disenfranchised half our UK listener base.
I remember his face, and I remember, yeah.
They're nice flowers, but don't get them confused. And you got to get the rose colour right as well, because apparently that's pretty important.
And I won't pretend, this time in the morning, I won't pretend to remember which is white and which is red. But
I'm not going there.
But I'm sure Candice has PTSD and turning around to Rob at some point saying, oh, really sorry, I've got plans. Yes. He doesn't really yell. He's just very disappointed in you. And then he has to find somebody else to cover the fixture.
And next week.
Yeah. And then next week, Candice is doing Feltham 2s, which is 2 hours from where she lives in the middle of a field. Funny that.
Yeah. We've all been there.
Those are great games. It's even better in Florida when you drive for 4 hours, turn up and there's not even a bathroom. It's like, oh, okay, here we go.
Peasy, we've got some stories for that, haven't we?
It's probably very similar. You turn to the motorway, your sat nav goes, in 285 miles. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just for perspective, the zone beside us, the shortest commute is 300 kilometres.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I have no complaints in West London. None.
Yeah.
I think my longest is 12 miles, although that can take an hour and a half, depending on traffic.
It sounds like an e-bike to me.
Absolutely not. I'm not cycling through London. I like my life. It's that simple. But yeah, I'm digressing. So reappointments, essentially, when referees turn around and say, actually, I can't make that fixture on Saturday, or really sorry, I got injured, or more likely, clubs turn around and say, look, the away team haven't got a front row, they've pulled out. Those matches change and referee availability changes, and it's the reappointments team's job to match those up in a sort of very fluid manner and cover as many games last minute as they can. So I did that for a few years, and then I was asked if I would upgrade and do another regions, or the more centralised regions reappointments. I'm coming to our London structured a little bit, but essentially it was a little bit of an upgrade, more important games, and I was going to be the only person on reappointments doing that job. So I did that for a couple of years. And during that time, my regional manager was sort of approaching me and saying, hey, how do you fancy taking over? The regional manager who'd been in place when I joined had to step away very suddenly at one point. And so it was being run by Rob and a guy called Gary Dibden, who were doing the interim. And I said, look, we think you'd be good at this. Initially, I was like, don't be ridiculous. No, that is my default is nope. I don't think I can do this very well. I'm a low-level referee. I've never refereed at high levels. What are you talking about? And they sort of kept chipping away. And in the end, I was like, actually, you know what? Maybe I can do this. I'm going to have the support of these guys to help on the practical level. Maybe I can. And maybe having a female figurehead wouldn't be a bad thing. And so I stepped into those shoes at the start of 2019, or 2019-2020 season.
So, Hannah, just a question.
Yeah.
Just so we understand, are these all volunteer roles, or there's
These
some
are all
paid roles in
volunteer.
there
No,
as well,
this
or a
is
mixture?
100% volunteer. Everything we do in society is volunteer led. So the referees don't get paid. The coaches don't get anything. You get your expenses and hopefully a beer, hopefully a bit of food afterwards. But in terms of cash in your pocket in London, it's just your expenses. So everybody from the referees, the match observers, everybody who's doing committee roles, either in region or for the society overall, it's just volunteers. We don't get anything additional for
understood.
this.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I stepped into the regional manager role at the beginning of the 2019-2020 season. And if we think back to what happened in March of 2020, that quickly became a very different job. It went from a job of overseeing refereeing of games to overseeing nothing. What can we do? There's no rugby going on. We have all these referees sitting at home doing nothing. Rob is really, really, really people focused. He is such a great guy to have on board. If they could clone him and sell him, they'd make 1 million of him. He is so compassionate. He knows a lot about almost every referee's circumstances. So he also knew that there were referees sitting at home on their own in COVID who perhaps didn't have family or were close to family. I was really conscious that we needed to get on Zoom and get together and do quizzes or just some forms of meeting, just be a space for referees to come together. And so we did a few of those. We did Christmas quizzes and monthly meetups online a bit further.
Yeah.
And, I knew as well that people were reaching out to others in the background. So it went from being a practical rugby role to very much being mentorship and providing a support system where it was needed. And I think by and large that works pretty well. And as we move through 2020 into 2021 and these rules started to relax a little bit and you could have sport-ish outside, we started to put together, I think, monthly meetups where we would come say, hey guys, come play a little bit of touch rugby with us. So as a referee society, we would meet up once a month for some touch rugby and some outdoor beers and just keeping that community there so that when rugby did start to reopen gradually, we knew where people were. We knew who was still around, we knew how they were doing, and we could sort of almost pick up where we left off. Really, I had a couple of seasons where I wasn't really managing referee society as such. It was a very strange time. And then we had to pick up where we left off. And as happened with COVID, we lost people. People realised that they quite liked their families and their kids, or liked, they met these people that had lived in their house for a few years and they'd never really spoken to before.
Yeah, absolutely.
My God,
so
I have a Saturday where I can spend time with them.
That's it.
What do I do?
What do
Or
I
they
do?
watched rugby. The English Premiership was carrying on, or started back quite quickly with empty stadiums. But these games are being televised. And that was strange as well, because we're very used to rugby being at the weekend. But because nothing else was going on, you'd have a Prem game on like a Tuesday night. It was a very kind of odd time. But people were watching Prem rugby and sort of thinking, maybe I don't want to go back out on a Saturday afternoon and they get cold and wet and yelled at. And so we lost people. Equally, clubs lost players. We're still seeing the aftermath of that in terms of teams that would regularly put out 3 or 4 teams and now struggling to put out 2. So the game itself is still either recovering or it just now looks very different to where it was. And I think that's the same. Every sport, every country you speak to has had a sort of a noticeable shift since COVID. We had to pick that up and figure out where we were, figure out what clubs look like. And if they said they were level 7, were they really level 7? And how you do that. And one thing we did notice is this drop off in clubs. We've lost a lot of our very low level clubs. And when you first start refereeing, you cut your teeth on these low level games. They're not pretty. There's some pretty ugly rugby. Boy, do you learn how to manage a game. And those games don't exist anymore. My story into becoming the president is because I wanted to to help people be the best referees they can. And, people around me have supported that and see something in me that they feel can lead. And so I just have to hope that I can step up. I became the regional manager back in 2019 and got through COVID and started to do that. And as part of being regional manager, you have to sit on the executive committee. London Society is run almost like a business because it's so big. It covers such a vast area geographically and a number of 400 clubs, 500 referees. It's huge. So all the regional managers feed into the exec with the president and the treasurer and the general secretary and the big guns. I spent sort of 6 years attending those meetings and feeding back stuff from the society into the exec so they can have an idea of what's going on, what the problems are, problems and successes at region, and start seeing London as a bigger picture. And our presidencies run for 4 years. And it's always been the case that you have 2 years as president. And then after 2 years, you bring in a deputy president comes in who you work with for 2 years. Then you step away and the deputy president becomes the president. So it's a 4-year cycle that for 2 of those, you're working in tandem with somebody. So in fact, you're always working. Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah. And it
Good
works very
succession.
well.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's succession planning. Part of that thing is you've got to, when you become president, you've got to start thinking about, right, who's going to come next? And whilst there's nothing sort of written down constitution or anything like that, that you need to be a certain role or you need to have, there is an idea that it probably makes sense if you've held one of the management roles in society, because you know what the expectations are time-wise, you know how those meetings work, you know what's going on, and you've been in that, you've seen that management from the inside out, rather than coming sort of from the shop floor up to CEO. The idea that is that you're probably looking at somebody that's already in some form of management or is heavily involved in the society to take over. And when the current president came in, he had his work cut out. He had a lot of stuff to do around visibility of society and getting a few things shored up. But he came over and said, look, how do you feel about maybe being next president? And I had the exact same guttural reactions I had when they asked me about being regional manager, which is ridiculous. I could never possibly do that. No. But then these conversations carried on. It's like, looking around, I have been regional manager for a while, and it was becoming clear as well that with work commitments and other things, I wasn't giving that the time and the energy that it deserved. And I had a couple of guys sort of come in and really take over the regional meeting planning, and it's been a huge success. And things have been really, really good since they took that from me. And now one of those is the regional manager. And I said, well, actually, maybe I could. And the president's kind of there, look, you know what you're doing from a regional point of view. You're heavily involved in society anyway. You're a great figurehead. You're going to have the support of a lot of people here. What do you think? And we started talking around what it would look like and how it would work. And so actually, same thing. Yeah, maybe I can. Maybe I can do this. There's things that are going really well in society. And President Andy McNeely is very conscious that he wants to lead society as something to build on, not build up. And he's doing a fantastic job of that. I think London is in a very good place at the moment. It definitely has areas for improvement and things that we need to work on, but it's going in a really, really good, strong direction. So I'm hoping to inherit a society that is functioning well on a day-to-day basis, and then I can start putting my ideas in place. But for the next 2 years, I've got a lot to learn around.
That's so exciting.
What Andy does behind the scenes. It really is exciting.
Yeah.
And for me as well, I've never refereed above regional rugby. I've never been into that middle ground of level 5. I've certainly never been up at the RFU level. So I've also having to learn what happens to referees outside of the region. How are they managed and promoted, and what does it look like for them? Because I can't really be a president for those guys if I don't know how it works. So I'm having to learn new areas of how the society works, as well as what's going on behind the scenes. And the president and general secretary do a lot of work behind the scenes with the RFU around directives and training and things like that as well. And also, if any problems arise, I don't want to dwell too much on it, but we've certainly had issues where either current members or previous members have been involved in some unsavoury stuff, and say, right, how are we going to handle this if somebody comes and asks us around it? And that becomes a presidential issue.
Yeah.
And then there's the man manager as well. Andy's always the first to know. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people of a certain age in the society. And with that comes the, not unfortunately they're a certain age, but around that comes illness and sickness. And the president tends to be the person that is told about this and has to disseminate that information and figure out, how are we going to go and support these people, or how are we going to, if they're in hospital, how do we sort of go and visit them? And
there's so many nuances that you go through. Like, how do I deal with professionals? How do I deal with the older generation?
Exactly that.
Still
Yeah,
refereeing and coming through. Yeah.
Yeah, if one of our hypothetically, if one of our London referees becomes a target of something at a national level, is that an RFU thing? Is that a London thing? Is that a both? That would probably go. That would come to him as well. That would go to the president. So everything that comes through the society, you have to be aware of. And I think that's where the time commitment comes in. There's a lot that he's doing. We're currently going through a sponsorship issue, trying to do that. I know that's taken a lot of his time physically, but just in terms of the sheer number of emails being looped in on every problem that's coming through from the RFU, from the regions, from the rest of the exec, it's knowing that you have to be aware of all of those. And ultimately, if nobody else can provide a solution, that's going to come to you. So it's learning how to navigate all of that as well, and watching Andy do that and picking up on things that, he's been doing for 2 years, but I'm now viewing those in a different light. They're not just emails that are coming to me for information. I'm like, right, how's he constructed that? What's the message being sent out? What's the language that's being used? It's those nuances of sitting at the very top. Because whilst the day-to-day running of society is very much delegated down, you'll find that he's in a lot of those calls, a lot of those meetings, speaks to those people all the time. He's very much the person that is asking questions about why, who, how, and offering guidance if things aren't working out. And I think that's the big challenge, is going to be keeping all of those plates spinning when you're the person at the top.
Yeah, so good.
All right, good insights there, and there's a lot to come. I like the stepped approach. I think that will stand everyone in good stead.
Oh, yeah.
And it sounds like you got some big numbers there. So did you say how many matches a weekend would you appoint to?
Oh, God. Well, depending on the weekends. So London as a whole could cover 400. When you take in men's,
society,
women's,
right?
juniors, that's all one society. We've actually, I think a friend of mine said that when I said we had 450 referees, she's just moved up to Edinburgh. She's like, that's more than the whole of Scotland. So that was an interesting stat. So it's big. It's 450 referees. I know that we're looking to hopefully have 500 by the time I take over the presidency. 400 clubs, dozens of match official advisors and coaches. It's a big operation. It's a big entity
How many are active?
That you're in charge of. So that's 450 active. So active could be one a month. It could be 8 a month, or 9 if you count midweek games as well. There's a big range on that. But ultimately, if you're refereeing anything in a season, you're an active referee. We don't put a sort of limit on that.
Yeah, fantastic. We've talked about levels and tiers and so on. So could you just explain for our listeners how the levels work in the UK?
Absolutely.
Because we've talked level 7, level 8.
Sorry.
Is 11 really elite, or is 11 really entry level, and vice versa? So if you could talk us through
11
that'd be really helpful.
I'm going to say 11 is not elite. Level 1 is your top guys. Level 1 is your level 1 is your James Dolman and Ella Goldsmith, and your top level, actually maybe Ella. I think she should be, personally. Level 1 is your top level men's rugby.
So do we.
So do we.
We all love Ella. So level 1 is your men's internationals, and in England it would be the men's premiership. And then essentially every grade of rugby you go down, the level of game drops. So for us, the premiership would be 1, our championship would be 2, and then you go into the top of the national leagues. National 1 would be level 3, national 2 would be level 4, and so forth all the way down. So when you start getting into real local rugby, where the teams are playing a team a mile down the road, that's probably level 8, maybe level 8, level 9. And then those second teams are 10, 11, 12. So, and that's sort of how it works.
So level 3, 4, 5, are they still pro or semi-pro, or just really good community, strong community?
So from level 5 onwards, it's not in fact, it's very common for those teams to pay their players at least a winning bonus. Level 5 is still, I feel, very community minded. In fact, they probably all are, but certainly you'll find level 5 clubs that have had players there for years who wouldn't consider going anywhere else, but they might be mixed in with some university guys who are looking to make 50 quid a week. So it's a bit of a mix. And then in terms of refereeing, I think I have this right because I'm not refereed at level. Level 5 are still non-professional, but level 4 is an RFU. So level 5 would be an RFU centralized
Yeah.
appointment, and that comes with a paycheck.
Okay.
And as you go from 4 to
Gotcha.
3 to 2 to 1, I believe that paycheck gets a little nicer. In fact, I'm sure it
So
does at level
jumping
1.
from 5 to 4 is a big step because you
It's a
go
pretty
from
big step.
local appointment to RFU appointment.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Level
Okay.
5 is, it's not local. London don't do level 5 appointments. But it goes into what's called the South East Match Official Team. So for us, that would be London along with Kent, Sussex, I think Hampshire. So you get all the top referees come together as a group to do those appointments. You're going outside of your region to do good quality rugby, and the RFU
Yeah.
will probably sort of start to get wind of you if you're good. Those
Yeah,
regional groups, their appointments managers, if you're good, will then start talking to the RFU and be like, maybe this guy, if next time somebody pulls out of a level 4 game, he's doing really well. You might want to give him a chance. Level 5 is a stepping stone between your regional and being appointed by the RFU, and it's managed
Okay.
a
Well,
little
that's handy to
differently.
know. So
Yeah,
sort of got these 3 tiers: community,
correct.
zone, and then RFU.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
Yeah. Because I remember when I first started out I was level 12, level
Mhm.
11. And I remember you would get a jersey, like a different jersey color after you've done a certain amount of matches. So people knew that you were in your first
Rookie.
year rookie, basically. So yeah, I always enjoyed the colors as well of our jerseys that we
Blue
would
and
get.
yellow. Yeah,
They used to call it the fresh meat green.
surely fresh meat
meat
isn't green. That's not quite right. I'd like to do that. I think we've discussed as a society pros and cons of identifying new referees in a way to
Yeah.
introduce them and to have people inside. He's not dreadful. He's just new, but we're not there yet.
We flip-flop over here. We used to have a jersey for the kids who were rookies, and I believe that's a good way to go. We see that in other sports as well. Soccer does it, basketball does it, and it's just a head up to everyone on the court or on the pitch, and they're usually kids.
Yeah.
They're green. They're going to make mistakes. Ease
that's
off.
really
You should be easing
interesting.
off anyway, but ease off even more.
Yeah, that's super interesting you've raised that, because we started a young match official program in London. It started a few years back, just in one region, really driven and spearheaded by another female woman named Kat, who's done really, really good job in working with certain clubs that provide safe environments. And now we're looking to expand that across all the regions of London. London's too big to just have one society, so it's sort of 4 mini ones. And West is doing pretty well. That was kind of the second one to come on board, and now it's moving more into North and hopefully Southeast. And we've spoken about this as a way. Do we provide shirts that identify them as young match officials? Because like the players, once our referees hit a certain age, you can't really tell if they're an older kid or a younger adult. And unfortunately, and I'm sure we'll touch on this, unfortunately, the simple fact is that match official abuse doesn't really come with an age range from the guys on the sidelines. They just see a referee. And we have wondered whether or not having a shirt that says, London Society YMO scheme or something might just trigger something in the sidelines, say, oh, actually, that's a child.
Yeah.
Maybe I should temper this. I mean, they should temper it anyway, is my personal opinion. But I think when you're looking at under 18s, it's even more important. So it's really interesting you guys have done that and got positive experiences with it, so we can feed that back.
Not across the board. And look, I for one would love to have a shirt that said, I'm really old, don't punch me. There's kind of a level where you think, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't need that and there's just respect because they're referees? It is a bit of a double-edged sword, I think, sometimes.
It's a debate. It's an ongoing debate, and we sort of go in swings and roundabouts. We go away from it, we come back to it. I'd like to see it come back. That's my personal view, but it's not everyone's shared opinion. So it's one of those 50-50s, depending on who you talk to. But it's interesting to hear that it's being discussed in the UK as well. So common problems, possibly common solutions, depending on the culture and everything else that surrounds it. So
yeah, I certainly think it'd be worth a shot, because the clubs that the YMOs are going to are almost specifically selected and have a good relationship with society. It isn't such a problem. But then what we say is, once you hit 17, you can actually go into adult rugby. You can referee an age grade up. So 18 is essentially adults. And we've seen quite a few 16, 17-year-olds come through that path and go off to do adult rugby at 17. And that's where it starts to become more noticeable. Because again,
That's
these clubs are
courageous.
having it's not throwing everyone at the deep end. I want to be very clear about that. These appointments would be managed
Right.
very carefully based on what's
Okay.
been, and actually this year we are looking to put in a policy and formalise how this works. And obviously anybody that's worked with YMOs or any kind of teacher or has even ever met teenagers knows that there is a range of how mature they are and how they act and how they react. And so you're going to have incredibly mature 17-year-old referees who are excellent, who are more than ready to go off and do an adult game. Again, have a look at where you're sending them. They would still need a chaperone. Have we had a history of issues with this club with referee abuse? If yes, probably don't send them there. But,
Yeah.
let them go into that adult game as a young match official and start experiencing adult rugby so that when they hit 18, they've already got experience behind them and can really fly. We've certainly had West are taking credit for one of our referees who's currently a championship referee. He came to us at 16 and he's just flown through the ranks. He's such a good referee. He's such a nice
I
guy.
don't know about you, Hannah. As an appointments officer, sometimes we haven't got a green jersey program because we all wear green. But to put those young referees, like for example, if I blooded Candace in a grade above where she's at, I put her with the clubs so I can reach out to the president or the coach and say, "Hey,
yeah,
she's good, but she needs you to go gentle, please." I find that works really well. For some clubs, you put them with the ones that you can't say that to. It doesn't work.
I was just thinking that I don't think we do that. And I certainly wouldn't turn up to a club, or actually I do now because I don't care. I know most of the clubs in the region and I'm never going, Parky's never putting me somewhere where I'm really going to struggle. For me, it's more, he might put me on a grade above me and it's a bit quick because I'm not quick. And that would be my biggest concern. I'll turn up and I'll joke with the guys, say, guys, you got to be slow today. Like, this is a grade above me. If you hit the 22 and you're on your own, just wait till I'm in there before you put the ball down.
Make me look good.
Make me look good. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that unspoken rule that you have to reach the 22. It's like a referee
Absolutely.
rule.
Yeah.
And when you get to tournaments, it's not unspoken. You get fined for that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And most of the time it's our own fault. But yeah, I know the clubs really well, so I can have that conversation. But I don't think it's seen as a merit to go to a club and say, hey guys, I'm probably not good enough for you. Because I think then you're setting that seed in a player or a coach's mind that, hey, why are you here? Are you going to be good enough for us? And it might just add to the issues that we've spoken around match abuse. But it's interesting that you guys do that on behalf of referees. And I might talk to see if we've ever done that. I don't know how that works, but I don't think I personally wouldn't feel comfortable highlighting that I might not be good enough.
Yeah, and there's some clubs you just don't bother with, but Premier Comp's only got 6 teams, and there's 4 clubs there I'm really comfortable tapping on.
Yeah.
There's two that are wasting our breath.
Yeah. I think as well, up until this year, we asked for feedback on referees from clubs. We've had to change it because it was just becoming another forum for match official abuse, which is sad in its own right. But also, I think let's take a level 7 club. They get a standard of referees every week that are that level, and they feedback going, yes, good at this. Scrum wasn't great. Communication was good. I wonder if you then said, well, actually, I'm only a level 8. Would that affect their feedback on you? Would they be like, oh, well, for a level 8, they were okay, rather than actually giving me feedback on the level of the game just as it was and whether or not I was competent for that? I don't know if that would be something that they would sort of say, well, ordinarily they say you weren't very good at the scrum, but they go, well, actually, given that you're only level 8, you were good. And that's kind of giving false positives or maybe false negatives.
Yeah. And I'm not convinced general public coaches have that level of knowledge of what it is that referees bring to the table, to be honest.
I'm not going to comment.
That was me. Yes, bring it on. I'm happy to provide feedback on your defence.
I think generally they do. And I think whatever is said during the game is that sort of passionate response that they are only watching half the game. Of course they are. They only want decisions to go their way. And if they're doing something in coaching that a referee hasn't picked up the week before, and then a referee is picking it up every time the following bit, it's a level of frustration. And I think that's why it's really important to go and talk to the coaches and the players afterwards, because you might come off that field thinking, oh my God, I've had a worst game. I've got everything wrong. Especially as a new referee, you're very aware of that. I think you go into this already thinking that it's a big job and there's lots to do. And when somebody's constantly yelling at you, they're getting something wrong, you might not have the confidence to send them to the bar. So you have to go in and speak to them afterwards. And really and truly, most of the time, they'll have come off the pitch and gone, oh, actually, yeah, pretty good. So despite all that yelling and blustering, decent job, actually. And or maybe you can work on this and maybe you can work on that. But it really does calm down and do wonders for your confidence and your knowledge base to go and chat to them afterwards.
We have an informal 15-minute rule here. It's not etched in stone, but it's a rule of thumb that we encourage people to use to not engage between the match officials and anyone really for 15 minutes. And 9 times out of 10, maybe higher, if they've got something they want to vent, by the time you get to the end of the 15 minutes, everyone's sort of calmed down and gone back to the nice coloured hat rather than the nasty coloured hat. And you get a much better conversation. And then you go to the bar and you sit down and you have much more candid conversations.
Exactly.
I think I got that scrum wrong because the loose head did this, but I thought it was the tight head.
Rob, what's a not nice coloured hat? Is that myrtle green?
Oh, Piercy, you have been very naughty today. We're losing listeners right, left and centre
Have we
tonight,
really got any myrtle green listeners here?
Oh, we do. We do. Shout out to them. Hello. I know who you are. Or some of the.
Did you shout
and we
at them?
love your work.
So we have something similar, Rob. We have a 30-minute rule. Again, our points manager is very aware. That 30 minutes after the final whistle is yours. It's yours if you are lucky enough to have a change room. I don't know how it works in some of the clubs in Australia. That's your time to go back, to decompress, have a shower, and nobody from the clubs is really supposed to come and engage with you unless it's to say, hey, I've brought you an orange juice and lemonade or a cup of tea. That's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But if there's something they want to discuss with you about your refereeing, that's when you've had that time to sort yourself out, get changed, bring your heart rate down, let them bring their heart rate down, and then you go. So for us, we're encouraged that for 30 minutes.
That. And if you've had a horror, you can be 20 miles up the road.
Yeah, exactly. Taxi. No, I think it's more important for those horror shows that you do. You've really got to find the courage for those horror shows. Are the ones to hang around for.
You got to front up.
Firstly, you've got to front up. And to the point that I've just made, I've come off the pitch feeling awful. Like I've just got everything wrong. What am I doing here? That's where that relationship or that chat with the coaches and the players afterwards really does bring that confidence back up.
There's nothing quite as disarming as saying, I've had a horror. I'm sure you've got some feedback because I don't feel very happy with that game. There's nothing quite as disarming for a coach than that.
And that's when, again, their heart rates come down as a whole. They've kind of gone, well, fine, we lost, but actually that's because we didn't win a single line out and kept dropping it over the line. That wasn't the referee.
Thank you so much, Hannah. We really enjoyed talking about the rookie jerseys and the ref rights after a match. There's still plenty to talk about. We will end it there and we'll come back shortly for part 2.